Previously on the inventory.
The quantum entanglement dish, or QED as I like to call it. I decided to build this thing out of a lot of old spare parts and finding the largest receiver dish I could find. So, once it was finished, I hooked it up to my computer to see what it was capable of receiving. I was able to access something outside of the Equestrian Infonet.
Outside?
Well, they are sentient creatures from another world called Earth. They're the dominant species there, just like we are in Equestria. But what is very strange about these bronies is that as I view the site page more, it turns out, well, they sort of worship everything about us.
KPNY is Ponyville's only radio station. It'd be the best way to spread the news.
And that's what your job is going to be. You're going to be sharing the brony phenomenon with the rest of Equestria by presenting the finest art, music, and stories from the brony movement.
What's the show even going to be called?
The Inventory.
And now for the continuation of the inventory on KPNY.
I can't believe it. All this equipment. It reminds me of my old job back in Cloudsdale. I'm glad Sound Effects got me a second chance. I'm glad he stuck his neck out for me on this one.
Well. So, how come I haven't heard about you from Sound Effects, What is it that you have to hide that we don't already know about you?
Because I asked him not to mention me. And you know exactly why I'd ask him to do that.
Oh, does that have something to do with your previous occupation of, what was it again, carrot farmer? Was that the result of that very interesting incident involving that rainbow-colored mare at the Best Young Flyers competition? Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yes. Okay, yes. I blew the best job in the world, but look, see right here, Mr. Stick in the Mud. I used to be a famous Pegasus in Cloudsdale, surrounded by the high life that beautiful city could offer.
Used to be, would be the key phrase here. I, for one at least, am still the leading scholar at the First Municipal Book Depository of Canterlot.
Wow. Oh, how interesting. So, in other words, you work at the public library. And for a second there, I thought you were the type to land a job at the Royal Archives.
Well, at least I'm still a distinguished member of the community. I would never have to settle for such a demeaning...
Alright guys, places. This is the real deal. Airwaves, Fairytail, don't screw this up. I've had it up to here with your arguing, and if it gets any worse, I swear I'll drag you both out of this booth if I have to. We have less than 30 seconds to broadcast. Sound Effects, stand by and don't mess this up. I won't have another Hey Milkshake incident on the control panel like we did during training.
Don't worry about it, curtain call.
This is going to be a long broadcast. Thanks, Celestia, for my tea. Hello and welcome every pony to the first installment of the inventory here on KPNY Radio, Ponyville's radio. And just remember every pony that if you aren't listening to KPNY Radio, odds are you probably aren't listening to the radio. My name is Airwaves, and yes, I understand I am that Airwaves, and I will be your host here at the inventory. The inventory is a show dedicated to bringing you up and coming information about a brand new discovery that has been made, and in the place we'd least expect. Right in our backyard, every pony, here in Ponyville. So what is this discovery, you ask? Well, let's just say us here at KPNY Radio have stumbled across a very accomplished inventor.
That'll be the day.
Anyway, this very talented pony, who I'm proud to call my friend, is a rather accomplished young colt who has created an impressive device that he has dubbed the Quantum Entanglement Dish. Unfortunately, every pony, I wish I could explain to you how this device works, but sadly I cannot. However, all of us here at KPNY Radio are glad it does so that we can share this great discovery with you.
Until that convoluted piece of junk will last more than a week.
Why him? Anyways, this great discovery comes to a great shock to us all, but it does appear that we're not alone in the universe after all. Yes, every pony, aliens, they are out there, and now this isn't a tale of close encounters of the third kind, by far no. This is a more interesting tale than that. We ponies have discovered another race of sentient creatures out there in the universe called humans. They live on a planet that's not too different from our own, and they call it Earth.
Why don't you just tell him why we're really here?
I'm getting to that. In any case, what brings us here is that there is a subculture movement happening within humanity that has caught our attention, and those humans that are proud to be a part of it call themselves bronies. Now you stop and think to yourself, but airwaves, why does this matter to me? Why is this so important to me? And why should I give a flying feather because I have more interesting things going on?
Is that supposed to be me?
And let me tell you why. These so-called bronies have made an important discovery, one just as shocking as ours. They've discovered us. Not directly, but they know of our existence. They know of our land, our heroes, our leaders, and our workings as a society. But what is more interesting above all is that these bronies have no resentment or hatred toward us. In fact, they worship us. But what we here at KPNY find most inspiring from these so-called bronies is that they have created magnificent pieces of artwork styles varying from neoclassical to our current age, grand musical compositions and songs such as symphony and opera, to that intriguing techno music as heard at the royal wedding. Finally, to wonderful stories ranging from poetry, short novellas, to literary masterpieces. So we here at KPNY Radio would like to be the first and probably only news source on this developing story, so that we can share these great pieces of work from the subculture movement so that we may understand why these humans praise us just so. So to start off with a warm welcome from every pony here at KPNY Radio, we bring you our first look into the brony subculture of humanity, the brony community, if you will. We present to you Telling Tales through our wonderful researcher and resident scholar, Fairytail. So tell us, Fairytail, what is the story that you've discovered, and why does it represent this brony community?
Ah, yes, well, thank you, airwaves. Fillies and gentlecolts, I am Fairytail, leading researcher from the First Municipal Book Depository of Canterlot and expert on all things literary.
Librarian.
And what I've brought for you today is actually an anthology of short folk tales and fables called Telling Tales by James Washburn.
Interesting name, that is. Now this story, Telling Tales. Why did this story call out to you as it did and massage your eyes, Mr. Librarian?
Well, airwaves, Telling Tales tells the tale of a traveling storyteller by the name of Tall Tales on his way to a major summit of all the greats of the business. During his travels, he makes a small stop in a quaint little burg that we all know as our own Ponyville. After making contact with a certain pink pastry chef, well, needless to say, hilarity ensues.
Wait a second. A pink pastry chef? By chance are you talking about the one who works at, Sugar Cube Corner?
Yes. Her. He finds himself in a position where he must tell some of the most well-known and beloved of the old ponytails to a rather, well, uneducated audience.
Why are you staring at me?
At first, the lowly farmers of his audience seem unresponsive to his masterfully spun tales.
Hey!
But soon the whole town joins in the revelry of these wonderful stories.
So, the old ponytails he tells in the story, how are they comparable to our old pony folk tales that we all grew up with over the years?
Well, you see, there's the rub. These stories are much akin to our own old mare's tales. They contain morals, memorable archetypes, and social commentaries. It would not be a surprise to me if these stories were in fact derived from old human tales.
So, by chance, let's say you are right, Fairytale. And these stories explained in James Washburn's Telling Tales are derived from old human tales. Is it possible that he, what's the word they use? Ponyfied? Yes, ponyfied. These stories as if they were our own?
Okay, I'm sorry. Ponified? It's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, believe me, I know. But I'm not the one who came up with the term. So, we've heard a little bit about the setting and the base of this story. What about the characters in this fine tale?
Oh, where to begin? Many of the characters within the piece are well known to us. Twilight Sparkle and her friends seem to be the central focus for the majority of the bronies' writings, and James does a very good job of keeping to their very distinct personalities.
So, even though we can assume that the brony community favors our heroes, the elements of harmony, how is James Washburn able to portray them?
Twilight and her friends are portrayed very accurately to the personalities that we have all grown to know. Pinkie Pie is still her obnoxiously jubilant self, and Twilight Sparkle goes on to her compulsive nature by refusing to believe in the more fantastical elements of the stories. The real star of the story, however, is the author's own personal creation, Tall Tales the Storyteller.
So, how does his original creation shine compared to the ponies that we are already very familiar with?
Tall Tales is a character that I made an immediate connection with. He is a well-educated master of literature who is very confident in his delivery. He understands the value of the long-standing tradition of oral narrative, and he finds the idea of having his audience so beneath his skills degrading. What he prides himself overall, though, is his success in being a talented storyteller. I can't quite put my hoof on it, but something about this character I found to be very appealing.
The resemblance is so uncanny, it hurts. In any case, Fairytail, and to all of you ponies listening out there in Radioland, this is a point in our show where we have to take a short break. So let's get you squared away with a little bit of music and a word from our sponsors.
Please stay tuned as we take a few commercial breaks.
Golden Oaks Library. Has the meaning of life been avoiding you? Are you seeking the adventure of a lifetime? Well, your journey has finally come to an end. Find the answers to these and more in books. Yes, wonderful books. At Golden Oaks Library. Checkouts are currently unavailable.
Meadow Songs Barn Raising Company. Have you had a barn blown to bits, destroyed by a freak accident involving cloned ponies, or do you just need a new barn? We can raise any barn quicker than you can count to 4. Apple family approved.
This is your local news at KPNY, and I'm your local correspondent, Press Release. Recent fashion craze of socks hits Equestria like a firestorm and is finally reaching Ponyville shops. Shops reporting all socks being sold out as soon as they arrive. Socks! Are they worth the hype? Are they really that comfy? Details at 11. I am press release, and now back to your regularly scheduled broadcast.
And we're finally back, every pony, after a much-needed break. And you're listening to the inventory right here on KPNY Radio. Just remember, every pony, that if you aren't listening to KPNY Radio, odds are you probably just aren't listening to the radio. So these stories that Tall Tales tells to the audience of Ponyville, would you care to mention a few of them to our listeners, Fairytail?
The first story told in the anthology is The Tale of Love and Badness. It is a story based around the old proverb, love is blind. It would seem as if the humans possess a very similar proverb based on the writings of this fable. However, my efforts to locate an origin of this ancient proverb was unfortunately unsuccessful, as I could not trace its roots in either our equestrian or human mythology due to our limitations on the subject matter.
Granted, even for us ponies and literary experts alike, we don't know much of the events prior to the unison of the three tribes that came together to found Equestria as we know it.
And this fable takes place in a time even more archaic than that. Within the walls of a paradise-like garden, primordial ponies representing all emotions, virtues, and vices that exist within us decide to play a game of hide-and-seek, with Madness being given the role of it. And so it is up to Madness to find the other ponies hiding within the garden.
So, how does Madness trying to find the other ponies relate to the proverb of love is blind?
Well, I'm not one to give away the ending of a good tale, but let's just say that this simple game goes awry when the pony representing love decides to hide in a rose bush.
Sounds rather symbolic to me. I may have to give this story a read-over once this show is finally over. Well, I'm all for cryptic stories telling a lesson at the end. Are there any fables in this anthology that any pony could actually relate to without having to go on a near soul-searching journey?
Oh, some of it's too hard for you to follow, Carrot Farmer.
I asked you a question, librarian.
Now that you mention it, there is quite a fascinating tale that involves discord, a subject that the residents of Ponyville should be very well acquainted with.
Well, unfortunately, I can't say that I am, but I'm sure most of our listeners can relate. I unfortunately didn't get to relocate to Ponyville until after that incident.
In the attempted reign of chaos, Discord, looking for a suitable chaos capital of the world, tries visiting numerous well-known cities to claim as his own. However, at every turn he is humorously derailed by the clever thinking of the simple ponyfolk of these humble towns.
Goes to show you that you can never underestimate any pony, because you never know what any pony is actually capable of.
Well, these are humble ponyfolk who are quick on their hooves and resilient enough to handle their situations, unlike some foul-ups I know, especially when it comes to handling their words.
Just you wait until you get placed between a rock and a hard place. Just like my hoof in this desk.
What was that? Are you talking to yourself? Anyway, now, on to my personal favorite in this glorious anthology.
So far, these stories have all been sounding all very intriguing. I can't wait to hear what the final one is.
Oh, it is truly a good one. This story contains a lot more of a serious tone. It tells the story of a donkey named Juan in the service of a cruel, slave-driving farmer. Unable to feed himself and his family, Juan takes the initiative by actually stealing food from his master. It is a tale of a poor donkey's effort to survive a horrific way of life.
Now that's a story I can sink my hooves into.
Oh, indeed. It is a story that I'm sure you would be able to relate to, considering the circumstances. And the name of this wondrous piece is, Juan and the Carrot.
And that just about wraps up all the time we have left here at the inventory on KPNY. Now, I'm sure that every pony here appreciates all the research you've done on this epic anthology of stories called Telling Tales by James Washburn. Also, for any pony who is interested in this story, we here at KPNY would like to make a special announcement. We will be printing up numerous copies of this story for you to pick up here at the station for your reading pleasure. I know I'll be picking up a copy afterwards, with the exception of Juan and the Carrot. Anyway, fillies and gentle colts, that concludes our broadcast for the evening here at the inventory. We all wish you a good evening, every pony. So say goodnight, Fairytail.
I bid you all a very pleasant evening. Thanks. Celestia, that's over. I can't believe someone such as myself has to work with the infamous failure of Cloudsdale.
Don't sell yourself higher than you are, Fairytail. At least I paid for my mistake with that sonic rain boom incident. At least I was some pony compared to you.
You're still a failure compared to me. I can't believe sound effects made me go through with this stupid thing with you.
Yeah, well, sometimes life is full of things you just don't like doing.
Yeah, you would know. Wait. Do I smell carrots in here?
All right, that's it.
Finally, we got those two separated.
Yeah, good thing you broke up those two when you did. Looks like Fairytail took quite the beating.
Great. He's gonna be out for a while because of this. So when can we get to fill in for him? No.
Well, what about my other friend?
Fine. Whatever. After what happened today, I just don't care anymore. Let's just make sure we take measures from this happening again.
Well, the janitor's closet has rolls and rolls of duct tape.